In recent days, Yulin City in China's southwest province of Guangxi was hit by continuous heavy rainfall, resulting in serious flooding. The heavy and prolonged rainfall destroyed the city's drainage system. Many streets were flooded and traffic was blocked.
塞车了，暴大雨了，过不去哎。
This was Yulin on June 9, 2024. Heavy water flooded the streets, making it difficult for pedestrians. Netizens said that the floodwaters from previous days hadn't yet receded, and now it rained again. In less than a month, Yulin received 3 major downpours, each bringing challenges to the city. Rainwater continues to accumulate on the streets, creating deep pools of water and making it nasty for pedestrians and vehicles. The accumulation of water not only affected people's daily travel, but also caused flooding of buildings and stores in low-lying areas. Some homes and farmland were washed away, causing further loss of property. A few days ago, another city in Guangxi, Wuzhou, also received heavy rainfall, which led to a partial flooding of the city. The river swelled up. Staff from the Wuzhou municipal government said some of the small and medium-sized rivers in the area had reached beyond the alert level. No casualties are reported yet, and statistics on property damage are being compiled. However, when a reporter asked the Wuzhou Emergency Management Bureau about the casualties and the progress of their relief efforts, a female staff member replied with a stiff tone, "I can't tell you about the situation." When natural disasters occur, common folks suffer the most. A local villager posted a video saying that he woke up to find the road collapsed in front of his house, his car fell into the water hole, and his house got flooded. Other parts of Guangxi province were hit by the rainstorm as well. The streets were turned into watercourses, especially the low-lying areas. People had to wade through the flooded areas, risking their lives. Many drivers were unable to move their vehicles in time. As a result, their vehicles were submerged in the floodwaters, with mud and sewage accumulating inside, resulting in heavy losses. Farmland wasn't spared either. Some crops were submerged in the floodwaters, causing losses to the hard-working peasants and their livelihoods. Not only Guangxi, many places in Sichuan have also experienced heavy rainfall recently. This was a picture taken at a hotel in Yibin, Sichuan province, where glass doors were blown off by the violent winds and rainstorm. This is Panjihua, Sichuan province. Mainland media reported that this was the first time in decades that it had rained so heavily here. With heavy rains, it's hard to tell where the streets are. Water rose rapidly, and the fast-flowing water rushed into the village entrance, bringing garbage and debris along with it. For nighttime driving, it was even worse. The city's transportation tunnels were hit hard. Busy tunnels were turned into underground rivers. A netizen posted a video saying that he almost couldn't get home. Everywhere you look, you can see broken trees and street signs blown off by the gale. Along the way, he was scared to death, and the water on the street had already risen to the door of the car. However, this was only the tip of the iceberg of disaster caused by the rainstorm. The video shows that a big tree in a small neighborhood has fallen on the roadside after the rainstorm. One can tell how strong the gale was. Solar energy panels on the rooftops of buildings were blown away, and colorful steel tiles were all ripped off too. After the storm, the streets were left in a mess. Mud and debris were swept into the alleys by floodwaters, flooding vehicles which were covered in sludge. Some got swept into ditches and completely stuck in the sludge, unable to move. In addition to vehicle damage, there was a lot of debris on the street. Broken tree branches, washed down garbage cans, scattered construction materials, and countless waste items were scattered everywhere under the impact of the floodwaters. A young man recorded this video at 2 a.m. in the morning when torrential rain poured down and the water from the overflowing river swept into the neighborhood, submerging the first floor of some buildings. He rushed through the soaked floor and out his apartment to check his car. His car was in the garage, which was flooded already. After leaving his building, he realized that the street had become a waterway. He walked carefully to avoid deep water areas and not let himself be swept away by the current. Finally, he arrived at the parking lot, full of apprehension. But luckily, he was able to drive it out of the parking lot without too much damage. The factory's premises weren't so lucky. With rain pouring in through the doors, windows, and drains, the machines and equipment were already soaked in water, and some of the low equipment was even completely submerged. The goods and raw materials in the warehouse were soaked as well. The owner of the factory said that the heavy rain caused great losses. The problem of urban drainage after heavy rain has attracted widespread attention this year. Some analysts believe that in addition to natural disasters, there are also human factors such as poor urban planning and over-urbanization adding to the disaster. On the one hand, many urban planners overly focus on economic development and land use, neglecting the protection of the natural environment and the city's disaster prevention capabilities. Excessive floor area ratio, ground hardening rate, and improper building layout have made it difficult to discharge urban rainwater. And once heavy rainwater comes, roads become rivers, parking lots become lakes, and the urban waterlogging becomes unavoidable. Secondly, the failure to fundamentally solve some long-term problems in urban planning and construction management is also a cause of floods. For example, flood storage areas and floodways have been squeezed during urban development, making it impossible for floodwaters to be discharged effectively. In addition, overexploitation of groundwater has led to ground subsidence and ecosystem shrinkage, exacerbating the impact of floods. For example, the 2021 rainstorm disaster in Guangxi, Henan province. The incident demonstrated that while underground facilities can serve as water storage, they can also lead to more serious disasters if they aren't properly designed. By connecting underground spaces between buildings, Guangzhou has created a large-scale underground space that can lead to a tragic situation of one flood for all, once floodwater enters the underground facilities. In addition, China's overly rapid urbanization, high population density, and limited land resources have led to more centralized and more dense urban construction. The large number of high-rise buildings, hardened roads, and urban design without greenbelts have aggravated the risk of urban flooding. Urban floods not only cause traffic congestion and property damage, but also threaten the lives of residents. In recent years, the CCP authorities have promoted a concept of urban planning known as sponge cities to address the frequent floods. Although the idea of sponge cities has been vigorously promoted in China, the results have been less than satisfactory. By imitating the function of sponges in natural ecosystems, sponge cities are designed as sponges that can absorb, store, and utilize rainwater to slow down the occurrence of urban stormwater floods, improve urban waterlogging and water quality, and enhance the urban ecological environment. This concept originates from Western countries such as Germany and the Netherlands and aims to solve the drainage problems arising from urbanization and to promote sustainable development. The design of sponge cities includes the use of permeable paving materials, the construction of green roofs and rain gardens, and the retention of wetlands and riparian zones to minimize rainwater runoff, increase the permeability of the surface, and achieve the effects of natural infiltration and purification of rainwater. It aims to reduce urban flooding, improve ecological environment, and enhance the livability and sustainability of the city. In some Chinese cities, especially Guangzhou in Henan province and Hebei province, which have suffered from frequent floods in recent years, sponge cities haven't been effective in preventing floods. The lack of investment and the slow construction in many cities in implementing the sponge city concept have resulted in the construction area of sponge cities falling far short of expectations, making it unable to fulfill their functions. In addition, the sponge city concept is more suitable for cities with low population density and abundant land resources. Many cities in China are densely populated with limited land resources, so the implementation of sponge cities faces many difficulties, especially for megacities. It's difficult to achieve the necessary scale and effect. The construction of sponge cities requires a high level of technical support and scientific management, including the construction and management of underground pipe networks and the improvement of rainwater collection and utilization systems. However, there exist deficiencies in technology and management in many places, resulting in poor results in the construction of sponge cities. China's climate and geological conditions are complex and variable, and the design of sponge cities may not be suitable for all areas. In some places, the water table may be too high, the soil texture is not suitable for water infiltration, and so on. They have limited the effectiveness of the implementation of sponge cities.